Look, let's keep going. You mentioned the rest of the coaching staff. You mentioned those two names that we kept. Bobby Ingram, wide
Mm-hmm.
receivers coach. Ryan Kerrigan, pass rush
Let's go
specialist.
offense. Let's stay offense.
I'll say offense. Okay.
Yeah.
Who else did we keep offense?
Yeah, so Tavita Pritchard is our quarterbacks coach, and he came. This EB hired him, and he had a couple other teams reach out to him to go, but he decided to stick around Washington. So again, that's that reputation of Dan Quinn, Cliff Kingsbury, what they're building here. Someone said, "I want to be a part of this. I want to see what this is like." Yeah, they kept Bobby Ingram. That got a big old clap on social media from Jahan Dotson, which. Losing EB was Jahan's been pretty vocal on social media. When EB was let go, he did not seem to care one bit. I don't remember what he said, but he made some comments about like, "See ya, don't let the door hit you." So those are some ones. Some of the other hires, tight ends coach, I don't know what his first name is, but he pronounces his last name Rye. He's the tight ends coach. He worked with Cliff in Arizona, and he's coming over from Tampa Bay. We've got 3 other coaches. 2 of them, I think, are home runs. The one is the one that we can question. So the home run, our running backs coach and run game coordinator is going to be Anthony Lynn, coming over from San Francisco. He interviewed to be our offensive coordinator last year. He was the former head coach of the Chargers. He drafted Justin Herbert. They had some injuries towards the end of the year, and they got hurt, and he ended up getting fired. He was also the run game coach in Buffalo, so a lot of experience. He's been in San Francisco. Love that move. Yeah. We hired Brian Johnson to be a passing game coordinator. This is the offensive coordinator of the Eagles. He got fired after 1 season, but his forte is quarterbacks. That's what he's been known in college. That's what he came to the NFL to be a quarterbacks coach. So I'm excited about that. The one hire that has everyone going, huh? So all these names people are excited about, all these new names, for the most part, people are like, nice. Anthony Lynn, huge hire. Brian Johnson, well-respected in the league, great. Then we hire Bobby Johnson to be our offensive line coach, who came from the Giants for the past 2 years. The Giants have not had a good offensive line.
Right.
And Giants fans, you can't go by fans' reactions. We're like, you hired an offensive line coach, Washington? Thank you. Thank you for taking him off our hands. So that one's a little bit like, huh. But that's our coaching staff. I'll let you react, and then I got some other things.
Absolutely. Look, first and foremost, number one hire for me is the one you were super excited about, Anthony Lynn. Look, I've liked this guy since he was a coach at the Chargers, and he was unceremoniously let go after only a couple years over there. I've always thought this is a top tier head coach. He's somebody that he's going to improve your staff. He's going to improve your players. He's going to work with your guys. We've seen what he can do at head. Now let's see if he can, work with our running backs. Unfortunately, our old running backs coach, shout out to her. Forgive me, I do not remember her name.
Jennifer King.
Thank you, sir. She, one of the first woman in our organization to run that position, and thought she did a great job. I understand the reason why she's out, but this hire for me is great. Going along with it with Cliff Kingsbury, the Brian Johnson one, and I to your point, I absolutely know about him being a quarterback guy and everything like that. And I was talking to one of my buddies, the Eagles fan, that was saying, last year, obviously it was great. Up to week 11 this year, everything was great, but there were still things. Yeah, right. There were still little bits and pieces that you can see where it's like you're not blowing these teams out, and then obviously the drop off towards the end of the season, and it's almost like, well, what happened? Now, albeit I'll still take that and what he was able to do for that year and a half stretch than this daggone Giants coordinator, because even our defense looked decent against them. So for me, I'm really excited about those other ones. Another thing that our guy said, Ab, and I want to talk about this. And again, check them out. They will be on. Ab and our guy Alex will be on tomorrow night talking a lot of this stuff. So definitely get up with them. But one of the things he was saying is, You got Cliff Kingsbury, who's been a coach of some sort. You got Quinn, now he's the coach. You got what's his name? Anthony Lynn, head coach. All Chiefs. Do we have too many of them? Do we have too many heads in this? I mean, are they all going to be able to narrow down and follow one specific voice? Like, what do you think?
Well, what's interesting about this is all these guys, and we've got even a few on the defense, they've all been higher, and now they're back to being kind of specialists, which, I mean, Dan Quinn had a huge amount of success in Dallas with it. Kingsbury, this is his first time in the NFL being an offensive coordinator. I mean, he went from college to NFL as a head coach. So he's taken a step down. I mean, Anthony Lynn has kind of been that lower role in San Francisco. When that's Kyle Shanahan's show. And Brian Johnson's going from an OC to a pass game coordinator. So yeah, there's going to be a hierarchy that these guys are going to have to follow. So it's going to be interesting, to kind of that's a dynamic that we got to watch. You know what I love though about this? The word is succession. Okay. One of the concerns about hiring a defensive head coach was, but if you draft a quarterback and then you do well, that OC leaves, what's the offense going to be? Well, let's say Kingsbury has success and gets a job as a head coach. First and foremost, you know what that means? That means we won. Okay. Yeah. So let me first say I'll take that part, because when do we ever have that situation? That's right. Not since Sean McVay, when we had a good offense and we were competitive. Did we lose an offensive coordinator? Okay. So let me be in that situation for one. Let me go there first. Second off, you've got guys in place who could step up if needed. You've got an Anthony Lynn that if you need to, if he could become your offensive coordinator. You've got two young guys who are being groomed in a Brian Johnson and a Tavita Pritchard that are now getting an opportunity to learn under an Anthony Lynn, to learn under a Cliff Kingsbury. So if that happens, we've got some guys in place to keep the thing moving. And that's what I love about this. It's not just a hodgepodge of guys. It's stuff like there's a plan behind this from what I see.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. And that's something that I think, everybody really strives for. You look at the Belichick tree, you look at the Andy Reid tree, Nick Saban, all these guys have all these coaches that have been able to, either go elsewhere. Obviously, all we're known for is LaFleur and Shanahan and all these coaches that were terrible with us, with all the crap talent and everything. We went 3-13, but then obviously had success elsewhere. I would love that. I want that. You talk about succession. That'd be great, where you have these guys that are able to move up. They know what this guy's been doing, so we don't have a situation where when the next guy comes in, it's like, okay, let's start from scratch. No, we're just picking up where we left off. You know what I mean? As opposed to when we had Scott Turner ran a certain way, then we get EB, he does it completely different. And actually it is on par, if not worse, than what Scott Turner did, in some regard. So that's what I love. I love that you hit that. You mentioned that, and I think you hit on it, is that we're just next man up. When we talk about next man up, that you can't have that if this guy is far greater than this guy. Because this guy, once he gets his role, what we saw with EB is that sometimes if you're not the guy, I don't care what play you drew up or what play you called, it ain't it, because there's something else in there. And we saw that again this weekend with Andy Reid.
Yep.
So, yeah, buddy. So, hey, that's the offense. Let's flip it over to the defense. We said defensive coordinator now is Joe Whitt Jr. Let's go down the list. Our passing game coordinator and DB's guy is Jason Williams.
Simmons. Jason Simmons.
Yes, Jason Simmons. Thank you. Our D-line coach, Daryl Tack. Our assistant.
Daryl Tapp, the guy from Virginia Tech. You watched him in college. He played for the Redskins. Number 55.
Hate Virginia Tech.
Well, you watched him, doggone it. He was good.
I'm sure I did, and I probably disliked him. Hate Virginia Tech. What's a hokey? Come on now. Assistant D-line coach, Sheriff Floyd. This move, linebackers coach, Ken Norton Jr. I am floored about this one. I have hated this man when he was on Dallas and doing all his little after he's, sacking us or picking us off or something like that. I've seen him around the league and always said, when he's against you, God, this guy's good. You wish he's on your team. And now to have an opportunity to get him at what position, Will?
Linebacker.
Yeah.
What's that? What is that? What position?
What is that? We haven't had that in a while. Oh, but I'm so excited about this. And then bringing in Kerrigan, like I said, and then John Pagano, senior defensive assistant. Will, we talked about the names on offense, but dear God, these names on defense, woo, I like that, man. What you think?
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I mean, I was so excited to hear about Ken Norton Jr. for two reasons. One, you said it. We're putting an emphasis on linebackers. Holy smokes. That's fantastic for one. And then second off, you're bringing in a guy who's been a two-time defensive coordinator who for some reason hasn't been a head coach, but he was on that track in Seattle. We're like, oh, this is the next Seattle defensive coordinator to be a head coach. And John Pagano, he's that famous family. His brother Chuck was the head coach of the Colts. He came from the Ravens. They're a very smart football family. So you bring in that type of talent, that only helps some of these younger coaches that we've got. A Daryl Tapp, a Sharif Floyd, even a Jason Simmons, even a Ryan Kerrigan, who is a very young coach, getting a chance to really learn from some veterans, from real guys who've got a lot of talent and can help him out. And I love what they did with Kerrigan. They named him an assistant linebacker. He was never a linebacker for us, but his focus is he's the pass rush specialist. That's what Kerrigan did with us, in Washington. So it's putting him in a good position too to apply. What does he know? I love this. There's a ton of experience. Yes. And I sit here and go, my gosh, man, how much is Josh Harris paying in coaching salaries here? I mean, you got DQ, you've got Cliff, you've got Joe Witt as your defense coordinator, you've got, Anthony Lynn, who's been places. You've got Norton, you've got Pagano. How much are you paying these guys? My gosh.
Let's go. That's my favorite order, man. Somebody has got the pen in hand, just you just let me know how many zeros.
Yeah, right? What do you want? Here you go.
I got it.
He wasn't lying when he said we're going to put together quality staff.
Yes. And I love it. He needs to put somebody together to help his face in press conferences, because some of those look
He's just bored at times.
It's please take the camera off this man.
Yeah, for real.
I was like, dude, this is supposed to. You got Dan Quinn and Adam Peters right next to you.
It's 1 hour. All we're asking for is 1 hour to look engaged. Right. It's not hard.
At one point, he's almost what am I doing here? Exactly. Can I go now?
Right.
Am I done here? Come on, buddy. Oh my goodness. But yeah, to your point, Will. When you start to look at these names, and you mentioned it, you hit on the head, experience, but also this is huge. This is why you keep a guy like a Kerrigan or Ingram. You have guys that have been here. They kind of know Washington. Hey, Kerrigan was a Redskin. We already know where he is on our sack list, and how we wanted to kind of keep him around just because he's one of those originals, one of the guys that one of the last true Redskins that we can really get excited about. And to have him in-house, I think we do need, because we're coming up with a new image. We're doing a new thing, but we need what you and I have been talking about, and that's some semblance of the past. You know what I mean? We were great. Those teams were great. And I love that, speaking of our owner, he was a guy that's a local guy now. So was Dan. We know about that. Yeah. But when I hear that from our owner now, I honestly feel kind of like it's one of those things where he even said in one of his press conferences with Chick Hernandez, he said, this is a dream come true. He said, I pinch myself every day, but then I'm like, okay, good. You got to get back to work. I love that, because it's half of the excitement, as if you and I would have, taken over the team. But then there's also the other half that says there's things that need to be done, and it needs to be done right now. And, I know what it took to get this team. Now we need to start creating stuff. And by this roster of coaches that we've gotten thus far, and special teams coordinator is Larry Izzo.
Oh, yeah. Totally forgot that.
Yeah. So, but this list of coaches and the guys that we've got, come on, man. Come on. And,
Right, well, I don't want to just gloss over Larry Izzo. Remember, this guy was known as a special team. He's a special teams Pro Bowler. He's been in Seattle for 3 years with the top 10 special teams unit, and Mike Macdonald just let him go. It's like, this was a big time hire there too. It's awesome.
Man, this is excitement. And that Jets coach. Yeah. No, this is excitement, man. Bringing these guys in here. But now, again, I'm going to go back to the question I asked before. We talked about it in our group chat. Is this going to be too many Chiefs? Not enough, for lack of a better term, Indians. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of guys. It fit, but it's still. I'm sorry.
I was saying not enough Redskins. That's not.
Yeah, Redskins.
Don't want to say it that way.
But I mean, still, you have a guy that's now becoming his first time at this position, Joe Witt Jr. Yeah. And then you got a couple other guys that have been here now. None of these guys have been coaches, but they've been around coach. You talk about Pagano, Kerrigan with us, Ken Norton Jr. has been around some quality. So it kind of it makes you wonder. Maybe, I mean, it's not as the names aren't as glamorous maybe as the offensive side of the ball, but still you got a guy leading that maybe has not done that before. And then you got some guys that have maybe been in positions where they've been kind of equal to him. Is it going to play an effect? Is it going to have an effect on defense?
I'm going to go glass half full the way I usually am, whereas these guys know what they're signing up for. They know what they're getting into. And most importantly, they chose to come here. Cliff Kingsbury could have been in Las Vegas, and he chose to come here. John Pagano had several different teams reaching out to him. He chose to come to D.C. to hit this role with our defense. So I think they understand what they're getting into, and I think these guys want to be a part of it. It's not Washington was throwing a bag at me, so I went ahead and took it. It's we got guys who've done this before. We don't have Brett Wieselmeyer, who is a high school coach, now coaching a first-round cornerback how to play in the NFL, and it was an epic flop. You've got quality folks who know what they're talking about, and that's going to be huge.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.